Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. You know, some folks just don't get it. When it comes to the current election that's going on, part of the reason why we keep giving Kamala Harris so much of the business is because we got the white media trying to carpet bomb us with propaganda that black people want this career prosecutor who spent all of her adult life sucking up to low-down Willie Brown, being a good little shill and operative for the California political machine, and using her position to persecute black people, locking black people up, and then denying it all afterwards and lying her butt off. And we're being told that this woman who laughed in our faces and told us she's not going to do anything for black people, this is someone who black people need to be having in the White House. We need to help her get in the White House. Do anything it takes. Protect this sister. That's the reason why we're lighting her up like this. Because part of what the white media likes to do is they like to make it where if you say one thing about the truth of this person, well, they'll go ahead and try to drown you under 10 or so stories of lies. Well, we're going to keep on speaking the truth regardless. You follow the money and you'll learn everything you need to know about Kamala Harris and those who are supporting her. Right now, as the left-white corner of the white media tries to get the Kamala hype train up to full steam, they're calling out all the bootlick shills and operatives, the same clowns who have been in hiding for the last 3.5 years since Biden won office, are now finally sticking their heads up out of the sand, some of them, and trying to sell the soap for massa. Now, the main ones who they hope are going to toe the line for Kamala are black women. That's part of the reason why they like having her out front, and they make sure she's got a few of her black sorority chums around her. But Kamala doesn't really have the support of black women in the main, not outside of the boule sorority circle of hers, the same ones who utterly failed to make her a viable candidate 4 years ago. And just to give her some camouflage, we see a number of shills and boule-esque social climbers who are only too jolly to jump in front of the cameras and say, I'm supporting Kamala because I'm a black woman. But of course, these would-be supporters never explain who's supporting them. You see, it's all meant to give the false impression that Kamala becoming president would somehow benefit black people in general and black women in specific. Gee, did Obama becoming president benefit black men? I'm just asking for a friend. One organization that comes to mind is one that I told you about several years back. You got so-called BlackPAC. And the front black woman who's supposed to be the leader of that organization, a woman named Adrienne Shropshire. Now, they're on the internet telling black people that we need to give money to their efforts to drum up votes for Kamala. Good idea. And whatever money you give them, it can be added to the $2.5 million that George Soros has given to BlackPAC. Oh, you didn't know. And I'll bet you on their website they don't even mention George Soros, but he's part of the big white money behind them. And what does $2.5 million in dark money get you these days? Well, it gets you these so-called polls of black people that show black voters are concerned about everything except reparations. There's 5 tables shown on BlackPAC's website purporting to tell you what BlackPAC says black voters are most concerned about. Black voters are speaking. And where have we heard that before? I believe I covered the British media saying the same thing about black voters on last night's Sunday address. And the closest that you get to black voters speaking is whatever BlackPAC says. Their very first survey table shows that the number one issue for black voters, according to them, is protecting voting rights. They actually had the nerve to post that. Last time I checked, black voters have not had a problem getting to the polls at all. After all, black voters are the ones who made Obama president not once, but twice. And even after 4 years of the Orange Man, it was black voters who rallied and made sure that Joe Biden became president and handed the Democrats control of both the House of Representatives and the Senate. And this after 4 years of Donald Trump and all of his pals doing all of the quote-unquote voter suppression that they could. And yet black voters, merely being annoyed at the racial abuse at the hands of the Orange Man, got together and voted him out of office. That's also part of what was in last night's Sunday address. These career Democratic operatives had to admit black voters, the base of the Democratic Party, are the ones who handed Trump his defeat. So the problem is not that black voters aren't going to the polls or that black voters are being blocked from going to the polls. The problem is the Democrats are not inspiring or better yet incentivizing black voters to go to the polls. That's the real problem. The second most important issue, according to BlackPAC's little survey table, is reducing gun crime. So we see BlackPAC pushing the white leftist line that black voters and crime are a synonymous political issue. Oh, you want to talk to black voters? Just make sure you mention something about crime, because that has everything to do with black people, don't you know? Oh, and second from the bottom of their list is a pathway to citizenship. So apparently that's part of the top 10 of black voter concerns. A pathway to citizenship? You know, unless you're a tether who still hasn't gotten your green card, or you're trying to bring your relatives over from wherever, there's no black American voters anywhere in the U.S. who are campaigning for a pathway to citizenship. Why should we? We're already citizens. Where's these black people who are so worried about illegal aliens being given amnesty at? Because that's what they mean by pathway to citizenship. Where has any black person, hell, even the tethers, been on TV, print, or anywhere in the appreciable numbers calling for a pathway to citizenship? No mention of reparations, nothing about any other sort of tangibles on this list, but they include some gibberish about a pathway to citizenship. This is what BlackPAC is putting out there, and these are the folks who are getting millions and millions of dollars, much of it in dark money, in order to try to motivate folks to go to the polls, and this is what they believe are the most important issues for black voters, as they're putting the millions of dollars in donations that they've gotten to work for these issues and claiming this is what black people are really concerned about. And then there's gun reform. They claim black voters are hot and bothered about that one too. And of course, they also got to say that black voters are also very concerned about abortion rights. That train is never late. This is one of the prime pillars of the Democrats' current political platform now, to get those female voters, especially in the suburbs. So according to BlackPAC, black voters strongly oppose the overturning of Roe v. Wade by 69%. Interestingly, they also have a little bit of data off to the side that talks about how these numbers break down based on church attendance. The church has made itself politically irrelevant today, and become more so as the black baby boomers die out, but among those who regularly attend church, BlackPAC's survey claims that the total opposition to overturning Roe was 73% among black respondents who are regular churchgoers. That says a lot about what these pork chop preachers are preaching on Sunday mornings now, don't it? See, for decades in the black church, when it comes to sexual morality, the preachers give that classic parable about the adulterous woman who is caught in the very act, and the Pharisees bring her to Jesus and demand that he say what should be done about her. As we all know, this was a trap the Pharisees were laying, and Jesus got out of it by not playing the game. Rather than answer them, he instead began to write something in the dirt, and he kept writing until all the Pharisees went away, and he told the adulterous woman to go and sin no more. Sadly, in this day and age, that story has been weaponized by these pulpit pimps. In this day and age, that story is not used as a divine command not to commit adultery. Instead, with these pork chop preachers, it's become a license to commit adultery. And if anyone tells you that you're wrong, you just say, "Only God can judge me. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." That is exactly how that story's been misused. This is how the black church threw away its moral legitimacy and became a whorehouse. So BlackPAC's survey is claiming black people are very passionate about keeping abortion legal, especially the black folks who go to church. Now, whose interest does a survey like this support? Not black people. And their final survey is about white supremacy. And you notice how they put that at the very end. It's at the very bottom. That's what BlackPAC thinks about white supremacy. Oh, we don't want to offend anybody, especially not any of those big white donors like George Soros. So we're going to go ahead and put white supremacy at the bottom. That way, if any black folks come along, especially black people from the black media, we can always point and say, see, we're CYAing on this one. We're covering our butts. We talked about white supremacy, see, at the very bottom. Well, in that particular survey, according to BlackPAC, 65% of their respondents were very worried about white supremacy. Interesting. So the number of black people who are very opposed to overturning Roe v. Wade was 69%. The number of black people who are very worried about white supremacy is 4% less than that? Really? Black people are more concerned about unwanted pregnancies than they are about white supremacy? Now, this survey is dated only 2 years after the uprisings of 2020. And what were those about? Abortion, perhaps? Red state bans on abortion? Is that what the uprisings of 2020 were about? Or was it the greatest social upheaval since the 1960s based on opposing white supremacy? In fact, these BlackPAC surveys claim that black voters are more concerned about everything other than our tangibles or white supremacy. Name the issue, gun reform, voting rights, abortion, whatever. Black voters are more concerned about those things than they are about white supremacy, and they don't say anything about reparations at all. And this is what BlackPAC is putting out there. And they have no problem getting white media attention to be able to spread whatever line they want to say. Just who the hell paid for these surveys? Oh, wait. According to BlackPAC, black voters feel more worried about abortion going away than they are about losing their lives to white supremacy. This is what these organizations' job is, to be black faces using their melanin to certify a white political line. They are sock puppets. And these are the black people, and in many cases they're going to make sure that they put the black women's faces out there, who the white media is going to put in front of their cameras and tell you and me that this is what constitutes grassroots support. Oh, look at these black women who are with these sororities and who claim to be businesswomen and political movers and shakers, and who George Soros, among many others, funnels money to. Except they're not going to make a big deal about that. You're not going to see that on the homepage of BlackPAC's website. You're not going to be seeing them posting too many Twitter tweets about that. This isn't grassroots, it's astroturf. Their job is not to tell you what black voters are actually saying. Their job is to lie about what black voters' demands are, to claim that it's whatever is conducive to white power's interests. Nothing BlackPAC is doing is going to rock the boat because it's not supposed to. With all the dirt Kamala's done over the years, how can any black people be so eager to make a career prosecutor president after she laughed and bust a gut cackling like a witch at the prospect of putting black mothers in jail because their kids skipped school? And they want us to take pride in that? They got the nerve to sit there and say, this is what black people want. This is black people being heard. Go ahead and put this career prosecutor in there who's been going after black people her entire adult life. That's what black people want. That's what they demand. It sounds crazy just saying it, but this is what BlackPAC is doing. This is what they're advocating for. This is what they're demanding that you support. Whatever happened to holding these out-of-control prosecutors accountable for their records? Whatever happened to making sure that all of these thugs with law degrees saw their political futures cut short for actions like these? For the idiots who keep saying, what about Project 2025? It's already here, stupid. There's really nothing you can name about what Donald Trump or any of these white conservatives are planning that hasn't been, at least for black people, going on for decades now. This is the same garbage that we heard back in 2016 and again in 2020. Please tell me what the hell it is that you're so terrified the orange man is going to do that Biden hasn't already been allowing up until now. All of you Negroes like She the People and BlackPAC and these anonymous trolls and shills who 4 years ago were telling us Kamala Harris would do all these great things for black voters, please tell me one thing she's done for us, even one. I've been keeping a running tally of all the things she's done against us. And now she and her flunkies are demanding we put her in the Oval Office so she can do more for everyone else and nothing for us. As pointed out in last night's Sunday address, they admit that black voters are the base of the Democratic Party. Now, after Biden's 2016 victory, you had everyone out there saying that their little handful of votes made the difference. You had Andrew Yang and others who were claiming Asian voters made the difference, say, in the Georgia runoff elections. Well, you had an Asian woman last night who pointed out it was black voters that made the difference. Because if it's Asian votes, then why are they even bothering trying to get black support then for Kamala Harris? Why not just make a big deal of reminding everybody that Kamala Harris's mother is Asian, and then watch as those Asian votes get galvanized, organized, and vote her right into office, right? But then again, that has never happened in American history. There's not enough Asian votes to do it. There's enough black votes to do it, though, but they're ignoring us. The goal here is to demoralize black people into no longer making demands. That's the long game here. And sadly, too many times, black people have proven to have a horrible habit of giving up before we've even begun to fight. Everyone knows this about us, so we've conditioned them to think that they can just wait us out, stall for a few more months, and black people will get bored, get restless, look for an excuse to quit the fight, because too many times that's exactly what we've done. And for the half-wits out there who are saying, you just want Trump to win, listen up, stupid. The only person I want to win is whoever is going to be putting black empowerment on their policy agenda. Neither of the candidates is doing that. So what all of you shills and bootlicks and operatives and you undercover trolls have been reduced to is saying, well, okay, Kamala and them ain't gonna do nothing for black people, but look at all the stuff Trump's gonna be doing against black people. That's the line you've been reduced to now. You've gone ahead and coughed up the confession. Yeah, we've been reminding you for 4 years, hey, look how they ain't doing nothing for us. Kamala ain't doing nothing for us. Biden ain't doing nothing for us, so you can't deny it, because we made sure to remind people constantly of their track record of uselessness. And now at the end, you've gone ahead and said, but it'll be worse under Trump. So you got to choose the lesser of two evils. The only problem with that is when you choose the lesser of two evils, you're still supporting evil. And as Kwame Ture said, decent people do not choose the lesser of two evils. They choose a good choice. Now, there were a lot of black people who wanted to feel better about the fact that they weren't demanding anything of Biden 4 years ago. No, they wanted to feel better about the fact that Biden threw it in their faces. I'm not doing anything for you. The only thing I have to do is to not be Trump. As long as I'm not Donald Trump, that's all I have to do. And you have black people trying to talk themselves into feeling better about acquiescing to that. Well, it's 4 years later now. And those of you who failed the IQ test then, there's no sense in asking if you smartened up by now. We already know the answer. Well, that might be good enough for you. But for the black voters over here, the ones with an IQ higher than their shoe size, it's not good enough for us. We are a constituency. And the same treadmill we've been on always gets powered with the same lie, which is wait until next time. But next time never comes. And that being the case, we're instituting a new normal. You want our vote? You're going to have to show us what we're going to get first. And if you don't, well, then you can go ahead and take some of that money that George Soros has given you, and you can go ahead and hand it over to us. Money can pay for campaign workers. Money can pay for ads on TV, but the one thing it can't do is to actually vote. Money can't do that. Only people can. So the new normal is that black people are the base of the party and will be treated as such. And that means when it comes time to talk about tangibles, when it comes time to talk about policy, you talk about black people. And if that's too much for candidate Kamala and her boule butt-kissing buddies to do, well, then I recommend you start making your peace with whatever sawed-off right-winger comes to occupy the White House next. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Dondi Waddell, Kenneth House, Serge P121, Cynthia Nixon, and Craig Simmons. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.